some of the most disturbing things happen in the most ordinary places. A classroom, a parking lot, a bookstore, your own driveway. The stories you are about to hear are real. They were shared by real people on Reddit. People who at some point realized that something was very, very wrong. Let us begin. Is my teacher being creepy? He always makes eye contact with me while talking to my friends. He makes me stay after class sometimes just to tell me how well I am doing. He doesn't do this to anyone else. He stands uncomfortably close to me during practicals. He marks my homework and my work at full marks, even if I have done almost nothing. And he makes inappropriate jokes around me. It makes me extremely uncomfortable. Is he being creepy? That discomfort you feel reading that? Trust it. The next story happened in a place people go to relax, and he had been doing it for a long time. Creeps at bookstores. I am not sure why this keeps happening to me, but I have encountered several creeps at Barnes & Noble, and even got one banned. Last year I was at Barnes & Noble studying, when I noticed an older man staring at me. He would fake read his magazine and look up at me every 10 seconds or so. It got so bad that I took out my phone and faked a phone call while I recorded him, because he would not stop. He would bounce his leg and move around in his seat. I was not 100% sure I should make a complaint, so I did not. Today I saw him again and immediately recognized him. I stared at him, and he purposely sat with his back toward me, now facing a younger girl, maybe in college. I could not tell. I continued my work but kept watching him. Sure enough, he constantly looked up at her, and I literally watched him move around in his seat and readjust his pants multiple times. She was not noticing because she was very focused on her work, and had headphones in. His legs were spread, and he was actually facing her. I kept staring at her, trying to get her attention, but she would just glance over and give me a quick smile. Finally, after I was sure he was doing something to himself in his chair, I got up and approached her. I wrote on a piece of paper, "Is he being creepy?" She said she was not really paying attention. I told her what he was doing, and that I had seen him before. The second I got up to talk to her, he bolted out of the store. That is how I knew he was guilty, because at first I had doubts. She thanked me for letting her know. I complained to the store, and they told me they get a lot of creeps, and had just received a complaint about another man. Luckily I still had the video, and showed them what he looked like. This has happened to me several times at Barnes & Noble. Stay aware. Creeps love going there. She noticed. She spoke up. The next one, nobody spoke up, and the woman at the center of it had no idea until it was too late. Strange man at grocery store asked for my number for a job interview. Today something happened that left me feeling really uneasy. My mom dropped me off at a grocery store after the gym so I could pick up a few things while she went to get my younger sister. My phone was dead, so I could not check anything or contact anyone. While I was in the produce section trying to find decent bananas, they were all green, an older man walked up to me. He was dressed in a light blue suit and had dark hair. That is honestly all I remember. He asked me if I had applied to work at the store. I said yes, without really thinking, because I actually had applied there recently. I had been trying to get a job for a while, so I didn't question it right away. Then he asked for my name and phone number so he could, quote, reach out to schedule an interview. I gave it to him and he just walked away. He never told me his name, his position, or anything. Right after that, my mom showed up earlier than expected. I told her what happened, and she immediately got upset and said it sounded really sketchy. We asked the cashiers if they knew anything about a man hiring like that, and they seemed confused and said it was odd. When we got home, I called the store and explained everything. The employee on the phone told me they do not hire like that and said she would check the cameras. Now I just feel really uncomfortable and kind of stupid for giving my number to a random guy. Has anything like this happened to anyone else? The answer is yes, far more often than it should. The next one is subtler, but somehow that makes it worse. A psychiatrist I saw long ago repeatedly kept asking me to touch his shoulder. We are both male. We somehow came into a discussion about touching someone of the same sex, not in private areas. I said nobody is ever going to hold it against you if you don't touch someone of the same sex, but it could be held against someone if they do. Then he said it is okay to do it in the right situation, like trying to comfort someone whose child is very sick. Then he asked me to practice it by touching his shoulder. He then said, do it again. I was very uncomfortable, but he had me keep doing it, maybe 14 or 15 times. I think he was excited for me to do that. He never asked me to do anything like that again. I was not very assertive at the time. But maybe I should have just stopped seeing him right then and there. A person in a position of trust, using that position in the worst possible way. The next story involves someone using a position of access, a neighbor, in a way that took months to fully understand. Man watching me at apartment complex. I just moved into a new apartment complex, and the place has felt decently safe. I have lived in some sketchy places before. But as a young adult female, I am always pretty cautious. There is one building separating my building from the dog park. That building has units with balconies that overlook the dog park area. There is also a grilling area and picnic tables right next to the dog park. When I first moved here, I noticed a man who was occasionally just sitting at the picnic table, watching. I figured he was just enjoying the weather. But as time went on, I became more and more creeped out. I walk my dog pretty frequently. She is a German Shepherd mix, so a little intimidating. 4 times now, I have caught this man on his balcony, watching me and my dog at the dog park. One time, I saw him look out his window, see me out there, and then proceed to open the balcony door and come outside. I immediately leashed my dog and left. Another time, he just appeared out of nowhere and stood at the fence. He doesn't speak much English and kept asking me if she would bite. I told him maybe. He then started asking more questions. What do I do for work? And he asked multiple times if I am single. I told him my boyfriend lives with me, which is not true, but it felt necessary. Just tonight I got home around 9 in the evening and took my dog out for a quick bathroom break. I was walking down the sidewalk and saw him standing on his balcony in complete darkness, just watching. I know I do not have any evidence of anything, but it is creeping me out. I keep changing where I park and which stairwell I use. Should I bring this up with management at least? Being watched in your own home is one thing. Being watched from outside your own gate is another. Weird guy kept staring into our car in our driveway. Then showed up again. This happened less than an hour ago, and it really left me uneasy. My mom, my 2 younger sisters and I were sitting in our car, in our driveway, getting ready to go pick up food. Our car was inside our gate. While we were parked, I noticed a guy standing outside the gate just staring directly at us. He was wearing a backpack. That is honestly all I remember, because it caught me so off guard. I pointed him out to my mom, and she got anxious and decided to stay parked for a bit. While we were sitting there, he kept trying to look into our car from outside the gate. He was not casually glancing. He was very focused on us. At one point he even put his hand up to his forehead the way people do to block the sun so they can see better. Like he was really trying to get a clear view inside. It felt so strange and out of place. He never tried to come inside or touch the gate, but the way he was watching us made everything feel wrong. We eventually left, but when we came back to our street, he was still there. As we drove by, he stopped walking and stared at our car again. That is when my mom got really paranoid and did not want to park. She just kept driving around the block for a bit. Earlier, my mom had been expecting someone from her car insurance to come check the car. So for a second, she wondered if it could be related. But his behavior did not match that at all, and when she called the insurance company, they confirmed they had not sent anyone yet. So now we are just left wondering who he was and why he was so focused on our car specifically. The whole situation felt really off. Standing still, staring, waiting. The next story had the same energy, but at 1 in the morning, in a quiet residential building. Strange 1 a.m. man. This happened to me yesterday, and I kept thinking about it ever since. I tried to make sense of it, but I could not. I watched a movie with my sister at my place until around 1 in the morning. When it was time for her to go home, I told her it was late and I should walk her. My parents live 5 minutes away on foot. We live in a very safe neighborhood. Only families and older people. Nothing really happens, but just in case. So we got outside. Only after what happened did my sister tell me that the moment she stepped outside the apartment, she had a gut feeling that something was off. I walked her home. Everything was normal until we got in front of my parents' apartment building. There is an alley that comes off the main street leading to the building door. I saw an unknown man walking toward us from the opposite direction on the main street, and the moment he saw us, he turned left to enter the alley. I did not know this man. My sister did not either, and I know everyone who lives there, even people in the surrounding buildings. I have lived my whole life in this neighborhood. What was so strange was seeing this unknown man with what appeared to be an unlabeled 2-liter bottle of white liquid, milk maybe, taking that left turn into our alley at 1 in the morning, the exact moment he saw us. I stopped at the start of the alley for 2 seconds while he walked toward the building door, and told my sister I would walk her upstairs. She immediately understood I was locked onto that man. She said yes, and we moved to the door. When we got there, the man was waiting. He had no key card. He was locked onto us, and we were locked onto him. I could feel my gut now telling me something was off. I scanned my key card. He held the door open for us. I let my sister go first, then followed, keeping my eyes on him the entire time. We took the stairs to the first floor. The man followed us and stopped in the building lobby. On the ground floor, there are 2 elderly women living alone, and 1 family with just the parents. I could not see who he was going to, but he just stopped there. My sister and I glued our ears to the apartment door after going inside. For about 20 seconds, silence. No door opening, no door closing, nothing. Then I heard the building door open, and eventually, him leaving. I went back downstairs with a wine opener in my hand. I did not want to take anything that could get me in trouble, but it felt like enough. The man was gone, no bottle, nothing left behind. I walked back to my place looking over my shoulder the entire way. I still do not know what he wanted or what he was doing there. Your gut knows before your brain does. The next story, a flat tire, a parking lot, a truck that just sat there, is proof of exactly that. Good Samaritan or creepy weirdo. I got a flat tire on my way home from work and had to find the closest exit somewhere safe before the tire completely ran out of air. For reference, I am a female in my early 30s. I ended up in an empty parking lot at a closed business center, parked facing the main road where I was completely visible to anyone driving by. I called for help, did all the right things. It was close to sundown but still light outside. I was on the phone the entire time on speaker, waiting for my roadside assistance to show up, when a white Toyota Tacoma pulled into the parking lot. I didn't think too much of it at first. Then I noticed, this man did not park in an actual spot. He backed his truck, so he was facing me directly, engine still running, about 10 yards away. I stayed on the phone. I was standing leaning against my driver's side door, which was open, facing the main road, with plenty of cars going by. The man in the truck was still just sitting there. He didn't try to approach or say anything, maybe because I was on the phone. I was aware of him but didn't overthink it. Then roadside assistance arrived. The second they pulled in, this man peeled out so fast, and as he drove away, he lowered his eyes from behind the visor of his truck to make direct eye contact with me. That is when it hit me. Wait, what just happened? He had been waiting the entire time. The moment help arrived, he left. That moment of realization is something you cannot unfeel. The next story started with a truck stop, a held door, and a man who had no concept of boundaries. Truck stop encounter. I was walking out of a truck stop and held the door for the man coming out behind me. After thanking me, he informed me that my purchase was not healthy for me. I do not remember asking for his opinion, but then he proceeded to put his arm around me and told me to come over to his moving truck so he could give me something a bit healthier. Then he asked if I was married as he tried to walk me toward his vehicle. I told him yes, happily married. I squirmed out of his hold as quickly as I could and put as much distance between us as possible as I backed toward my car. He then asked me how old I thought he was. I was caught completely off guard. Who cares how old I think he is? I was being generous and told him 48. He looked like he was in his 50s. Apparently he was in his 30s and took offense to my answer. He began berating me about why I thought he was 48. I got into my vehicle, locked the doors, and got out of there as fast as I could. I made sure as I left that he was not following me. I did not feel like I was in immediate danger in the moment, but afterwards I was furious that he thought it was acceptable to touch me and speak to me like that. Who has the audacity to do that to someone they do not know? And I was a bit angry at myself for being so polite, but I did not want to escalate the situation. I just wanted to get away. Sometimes getting away is the only right move. The next story, a woman, a stranger's apartment, and a man on his way, almost did not end the same way. Never again entering a stranger's house. I am a 23-year-old woman. I was looking to buy a used stove online. I found someone selling exactly what I needed, so I went for it. We talked on the phone. Since it was pretty heavy, I was going to go to her place to try it out first. I know how that sounds. I went anyway. She was waiting in front of a large apartment building in my city. She was probably in her late 30s and seemed fine at first, a bit nervous, but nothing unusual. The first thing I noticed about her apartment was that it was almost completely empty. I thought maybe she was moving. We went to the kitchen where the stove was. I was genuinely relieved there was actually a stove there. I was checking if it worked when her phone rang. I could hear a man's voice on the line. Then she said the stove belonged to her boyfriend and that he wanted me to pay more for it. At that point, I just wanted to get out. I felt really strange, like I could not breathe. I think she sensed that, because that is when she started visibly sweating and raising her voice, trying to convince me that I needed to discuss the price with her boyfriend. I was worried he might show up. I did not want to be alone in that apartment with the two of them. He seemed to be taking his time getting there, and she was growing more restless by the minute. I knew I had to leave before he arrived. So I said, "I will take it. Let me grab the money from my car." She followed me out. I cannot explain the atmosphere of that apartment. I could literally breathe again the moment I stepped through that doorway. She was still walking behind me. I just outwalked her, got into my car, and drove away. I blocked her number immediately. That instinct to get out, that was everything. The next story involves a family who moved into what seemed like a perfect new home. But the previous tenant had left something behind, and it was not furniture. Stranger walked into my house. About 7 years ago, my husband and I decided to move up north to a small rural town and began renting a cottage. It was absolutely perfect. Cute, peaceful, right near a lake. We became fast friends with our neighbors and really enjoyed our first few months there. Now to the creepy part. When we first moved in, we noticed that all the doors in the house had locks on the outside of each room. The bedroom specifically had a deadbolt on the outside. The windows had blinds, 2 of which had small cutouts in them. It was not until after we moved in and arranged the furniture that we realized the cutouts were positioned precisely based on where you would sit. In the living room, they lined up perfectly with the couch. In the bedroom, perfectly with the bed. My husband said at the time, "I wonder if the previous tenant did this on purpose to see inside from where he was sitting or lying down." We kind of dismissed it. Then we had a conversation with our new neighbors that made us reconsider everything. The cottage had a small bunker structure in the backyard. Once the snow melted, we went out to clear it for storage. When we walked in, it was a disaster. Animal waste everywhere. Total mess. That was the day we met our neighbors. They came over to say hello and proceeded to share that the previous tenant had been a nightmare. He was a very controlling man who had lived there with his wife and toddler, but the neighbors rarely saw the wife or child. He had a small dog that was never allowed inside, always chained to the bunker. The neighbors, thankfully, eventually called authorities and had the dog removed and rehomed. When we shared what we had found, the outside locks, the cutouts in the blinds, they were not surprised. They had long suspected he was abusive to his wife and child. They said they would not be at all surprised if he locked them in the rooms. He had been evicted due to ongoing problems with the landlord and constant strange visitors coming and going. That summer, my husband stepped out to run to the store to get snacks. The screen door was closed, but the front door was wide open since he was just stepping out for a moment. While he was gone, I heard a car pull up and assumed it was him. I walked to the living room window and saw a black car with tinted windows parked in the first driveway. Strange, who could that be? After a couple of minutes, the car moved forward. I went to the bedroom and saw it had pulled around to the second driveway. Then, a large, muscular man I had never seen in my life stepped out and started walking quickly up the driveway. Before I could do anything, he had opened the screen door and was standing in my living room. When he saw me, he started screaming at me in Russian. I screamed back at him to get out of my house. He switched to English and started demanding to see my husband. I kept yelling, get out, and I think he then realized I had no idea what was going on and that he might be at the wrong address. He apologized and left. I was completely shaking. I called my husband, who was just turning onto our street, and told him everything while crying. He pulled up, saw the car driving down the road, parking at a house nearby, and followed it. He pulled up beside the man and confronted him. It turned out the man was looking for the previous tenant, who had owed him a large amount of money. When he realized I clearly did not speak Russian and had no connection to the man he was looking for, he understood he had the wrong house. He apologized to my husband. My husband did not particularly care about the apology. You do not just storm into someone's home. For the next 2 years, we had a few other people show up unannounced, looking for that same previous tenant. None were as frightening as this one. But they kept coming. Someone else's past showing up at your door. The next story, and the final one, is the most calculated, the most terrifying, and the one that still does not have a clear answer. Disturbing encounter outside Toys R Us. 2015. June 15th, 2015. I took my children to Toys R Us after school because they both had gift cards. We wandered around the store for a bit. They both got lollipops and Pokemon cards. We left the store, and I helped them get into the car. They were 6 and 7 years old at the time. Before I could pull out of my parking spot, a blue van, a Pontiac Montana, pulled in front of me, blocking me in. I was annoyed at first. Just then, a man got out of the van and approached my window. I got a horrible feeling immediately, so I kept my window open just a crack. He started asking me questions about my car, how much did it cost, things like that. Then he showed me a small storage drive that had a label on it, with my name on it. I had never seen it before. I had never seen this man before. He was missing several teeth. That is the main thing I remember about him. He said the drive contained 24 hours of photos and footage, and that he would send it to the authorities, and I would never see my kids again, unless I went with him to, quote, clear things up. I asked if it was a joke. His tone changed completely. He became agitated and intense, insisting I go with him, saying, do not play dumb. He knew my daughter's name. He used it. I pulled out my phone and started dialing emergency services. He said, oh, I can do that too, and made as if he was going to pull out his phone. But the moment he saw I was actually calling, he rushed back to his van. I saw he was already on the phone with someone as he drove away. I spoke with emergency services and was told police would be about an hour away, since the man had already left. I asked them to meet me at my home. When the police arrived, they treated me like I was unstable or making things up. Nothing ever came from my report. What I later found out, because my father and I did our own investigating when the police would not. At the exact same moment the van had pulled in front of me to block me in, a gray truck had pulled up behind me. Both vehicles left the parking lot at the same time. My email account had been hacked that same morning. I had purchased the car from a dealership that had taken a photo of me and my children in front of the car when I bought it. That dealership had posted the photo publicly, with my license plate visible and my full name. This incident affected me for a very long time. I am still not convinced it was not an attempted abduction of some kind. 2 vehicles, a planned block, a hacked email, my name on a drive, my daughter's name in his mouth. Whatever that was, I hope I never find out. If these stories reminded you to trust your gut, good. That instinct exists for a reason, and it has saved more lives than we will ever know. If you made it this far, you already know what to do. Hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. New stories every week. We will see you in the next one, if you dare.